All right, hello, welcome back, everybody. PayPal and Patreon are down below if you want to support me. Only do so if you actually can. So this time I decided to put together a video where we will at least roughly go down the list of a lot, not all, but a lot of the countries in the world from largest levels of oil consumption down to the lowest levels of oil consumption out of the whole global oil demand level, which in present day is around 103 million barrels per day on average. So, starting from the top, the largest oil consumer remains obviously the US at roughly a flat 20 million barrels per day, where it has remained for the last 20 years or so, comprising roughly one-fifth of the total global oil demand by itself, and followed closely by China in present day, as of this year at least, up to averaging about 17 million barrels per day of oil demand. Thus, just from the two of us together, already jumping the total up to 37. Then India is getting close to 6, so that jumps from 37 up to a total of 43. And the other two members of the top five are Japan at 3.7 million barrels per day and South Korea at 2.8, coming together to give us the total now of the top five being 49.5 million barrels per day, or roughly just these five countries comprise about half of the world's total oil demand. Russia used to be decently higher in their demand level, but in the economic turmoil since invading Ukraine, they've tumbled down into the twos and are now all the way down to averaging 2.5. Brazil also averages 2.5. Canada averages about 2.5, and Saudi Arabia averages about 2.5. Thus, putting those four together gets you another 10, jumping you up to 59.5. Then throwing the last member of the top 10 in, Germany, at an average of 2.2, that then would bring you up to 61.7 million barrels per day. So the top 10, just 10 countries, comprise over 60% of global oil demand. Following Germany, we have the double twos, Indonesia and Iran. Both have a domestic oil demand level of about 2 million barrels per day. Adding those two on brings us up to a total of 65.7. Then following that, we have Mexico at 1.6, France also at 1.6, and the UK at 1.5, bringing us to a total then of 70.4. Following behind the UK, we have Italy and Spain, both having an average demand level of 1.3 million barrels per day, and bringing the total thus far to 73. And then the final three members of the top 20 being Thailand, Singapore, and Turkey, all having a average demand level now of 1.2, and thus bringing the total up to 76.6. So the top 20 countries out of 193 or 194 comprise over 3/4 of the world's oil consumption. Dropping from Turkey down to the UAE and Australia, they both consume about 1.1 million barrels per day. And then the Netherlands and Taiwan each consume about 900,000, bringing us to a total then of 80.6. So following behind the Netherlands and Taiwan, we have the four 800,000 barrel per day countries, Iraq, Egypt, Malaysia, and Poland. Those four put together bringing us up to 83.8 million barrels per day. Argentina, all alone by itself, on an average of 700,000, thus bringing us up to 84.5 million barrels per day. Three countries having an average of 600,000, those being Belgium, Nigeria, and Vietnam, bringing us to a total of 86.3. Five countries having an average of 500,000 barrels per day, or half a million, those being South Africa, the Philippines, Colombia, Algeria, and Pakistan. We have four countries who have an average consumption level of about 400,000 barrels per day: Chile, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, and Qatar. The four of them thus bringing us up over 90 to 90.4. Then we have the seven countries who average roughly 300,000 barrels per day of consumption, those being Morocco, Ecuador, Peru, Sweden, Greece, Bangladesh, and Venezuela. The seven of them then managing to inch us a bit further up to 92.5 million barrels per day total. Then below them, you have a set of four countries who average about 250,000: Romania, Portugal, Oman, and Israel. Four of those put together being an obvious 1 million plus. So going from 92.5 up to 93.5. Then following them further down, we have a group of 10 countries who in present day average roughly 200,000 barrels per day. Those being Austria, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Switzerland, Finland, Norway, Libya, Angola closing in on it, New Zealand almost there, and Ukraine falling down to it, formerly averaging 300,000 before the invasion. And obviously 10 times 0.2 million gives you a flat 2 million. So bringing us from 93.5 up to 95.5, dropping down to those who average roughly around 150,000 or 0.15 million barrels per day. Those being Ireland, Denmark, Azerbaijan, Panama, Myanmar, Turkmenistan, Syria, Belarus, Lebanon, the Dominican Republic, and Cuba. Then, obviously behind them, you have those whose averages come out to around 100,000 barrels per day. Countries with such a demand level including Uzbekistan, Tunisia, Slovakia, Bulgaria, Sri Lanka, Serbia, Ghana, Kenya, Guatemala, Jordan, Ethiopia, Cambodia, and Bolivia. And those combined just bringing us up to 98.45. Then we have those whose averages come closest to about 50,000 barrels per day, or 0.05 million barrels per day. Those comprising Trinidad and Tobago, Uganda, Croatia, Paraguay, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Mozambique, Slovenia, Luxembourg, Bahrain, Lithuania, Honduras, Costa Rica, Tanzania, Nepal, Benin, Cameroon, Cyprus, Latvia, Mali, Malta, Mongolia, Uruguay, and Yemen. And that remaining 2 million is comprised of a bunch of micro consumers, such as, for example, Togo, who only consumes 10,000 barrels a day, and then several outliers, those being territories that are not actually counted in the consumption total of the countries that are in possession of them, such as the Dutch Antilles Islands in the Caribbean, or Gibraltar, which is owned by the UK. Many such places are very built up and are very high traffic tourist destinations. All right, that's it for this one. Thank you everybody for sticking around and listening. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. PayPal and Patreon are down there if you want to support me. Only do so if you actually can. You can also watch or listen to any of the other stuff on the channel. Plus, there's a link in the description to a Google Drive folder full of docs with graphs, charts, data compilations across all types of subjects. That's free to access, free to use 24/7. A link to my Cats channel will be in the top pinned comment as well. May God bless and protect all of you, and I will see you all around next time.